Bam! Hey guys, welcome back. Quick Speed Shop, I'm Josh. Once again, we're working on Dodge stuff. I got my Dodge frame here all painted up, and off camera, I've been bolting some things onto it. I've got the power steering box bracket bolted on with some fluid film around it. I've got the front shock mounts bolted on. I've got the Dana 60 rear end out of a 98 Ford Econoline van we're going to use in this chassis. I think in this video, we're going to finally bust out the rough country suspension lift I bought for this a little while ago. I bought a 4-inch suspension lift, which comes with 4 brand new springs, shocks, U-bolts, I think a block to raise the steering arm on the Dana 44 front axle. And what we'll do today is put new bushings in the back of the frame. We'll hang the leaf springs and see how this thing's going to look. Then I got to clean up the rear end and get that ready to install. I've got to cut the spring pads off it and move them inboard a little bit because they're too wide, and I got to descale this and paint it up. It needs a new diff cover and some other things like that. But all right, here we go. Bam, look at this, man. Here are my rough country 4-inch lift springs. These are the fronts. They are, so let's see, 1 2 3 4 5. There, 1 2 3 6 sleeves in the front, and there is 5 in the back. You got 4 main leaves, or 4 leaves and then a big helper spring. Now, when you order this kit for this truck, 4-inch or 6-inch, they send you all the same springs for whatever load truck it is, half ton all the way up to 1 ton. And since this is a 3/4 ton / 1 ton truck, I'm gonna be hauling a lot of weight with it, and I'm a little nervous about the springs being weak in the back. But if they are, I'll do some suspension upgrades in the back, like maybe add some overload springs, or maybe get like one of those airbag setups to put between the frame and the axle to increase my rear payload, because I am going to be running a dump box in the back of this, and the main goal of this truck is to have it useful for hauling stone and scrap and stuff. So that's my only concern, is the rear springs being a little soft for the needs, but we'll see. The front springs with a snowplow this truck has, I'm really happy about the 6 front leaves. The leaves that were in this truck were like 4 or 5, I think, originally, and they were sagging pretty good. So hopefully the 6 sleeves in the front will help out with the snowplow, the weight of the snowplow on it. So these come like loose in the mail from like FedEx, just with stickers on them, and they're super heavy, and they throw them in your yard, and you show up home and they're there. It took me half an hour to get the stickers off. They're like super heavy-duty stickers, and they wrap them all the way around. It was a real chore to get the stickers off the springs, so I didn't show you that on camera because it was nuts. But these things are ready to go in. They come dipped in paint, and the paint gets scratched up from shipping, from crashing around in the truck. I'm going to repaint them once they're in the chassis. But what I want to do before this, let's see if I can lay one of these down. The rear springs have plastic pads, slipper pads in them, to like Teflon or whatever, so they slide in them. The front springs do not. They're just like standard leaf springs that are just, clamped together. So eventually those are going to rub through the paint and get rust in between them. So what I want to do is I want to loosen up the bolts to hold the front leaves together, try to stick some screwdrivers in there, spread them a little bit, put some grease in between the leaves. I always like to grease my leaf springs, and that will let them slide really nice and keep rust and stuff out of there, give them some lubrication. Early Ford cars in the 30s and 40s, they actually had grease fittings in the center bolts, and you could grease your whole spring and they'd stay nice. The rear ones, I'm just going to take some grease and paddle it down in here with like a putty knife, and just get some grease in between the leaves to help keep crap out of there, and just try to grease these guys up. So I'm going to set up for that now. Okay, how I'm going to do this is I'm just going to simply take my grease gun, and I'm just going to pump some grease in here and like mush it around with my gloved fingers here. Actually, if I can spread this with this bar just a little bit. So we need 3 hands now. That's not gonna... That would work a lot nicer. Don't pinch your fingers in the leaf springs. seems like a good way to pinch your fingers. Alright. It's like a hand. Whoa! Ah! Yep. Alright, hold on a second. I'm going to have to grease. I'm going to grease. Just put some on here. And then I'm going to try to work it down in there. This grease gun might be getting out. That is a finger pincher if I ever seen one. There we go. Get that grease straight down in there. Let it eat on it. All right, bam, it's the next day. I got everything greased up. The front springs, I actually took the center bolt, and because there's some threads in it, I backed it off, and I used a pry bar to pry it apart and greased them up. Now everything is absolutely covered in grease everywhere. I got to wear gloves to work on this thing from now on. But let's start in the back. Let's put the rear springs on. You'll notice that the, I don't know if you can tell, but the spring, it's longer in the back than it is on the front with the center bolt. The long part goes in the back. Mopars have always had long springs in the back for some reason, and probably other companies, but I think it's how they ride better. So we've got our ATS spring hangers. I've got to remove the rear shackle. We got to bolt this onto the leaf spring first because there's no way to get the bolt in it, and I want to put the nut on the outside. So I'll bolt that there, but you see this play in here? Some people will just crank this and bend this over. I'm actually going to shim it. I've got some washers, 5/8 washers. This is a 5/8 bolt. I'm going to put a couple of 5/8 washers in here with some grease on them and shim that out so this doesn't tighten down and deform that spring hanger all the way. And I've got all brand new grade 8 hardware right here. Brand new bolts and nuts. I couldn't find any 5/8 lock nuts, which I'd like to use. Like this comes with lock nuts here. I might have to go find some, but we'll bolt it together for now with the, what do you call it, with the regular nuts and lock washers. But I do like to have jam nuts or nylock nuts because they tend to stay on forever. So first thing, I'll pull that shackle out. We'll bolt it up on the spring, and then we'll put the spring in here. I'm going to guess with the 4-inch lift that the spring's going to be way down here, and this truck's going to be way up in the air. So we'll see. All right, I hung the rear perch on there with a bolt. The bolt's a little long, but I'll saw it off later. I got the technology. Ah, oh, man, why is everything so heavy? I put more grease on it. I got the rear hanger bolt. Like I said, I'm going to shim it. I got two 5/8 washers all greased up. The secret is grease. So I'm going to put that there. I'm going to drag this guy and scratch all the paint off it. Perfect. Set this down in here like so. Oh. This is where you need 3 hands because there goes the washers. Oh! Of course, everything is greasy. That was smart. All right. This is like a precision operation here. Come on now. Almost there. Would it be easier? No, it wouldn't. Ah, nuts. I might have to set this. This is a disaster. The problem is it's a tight fit. It's really hard to hang the bolt and get the whole shebang. Oh, I might have just got it. Get in there. There we go. Get the whole shebanged. Got it. Yes. Now this rear shackle action, this came with a bolt, which has a locking nut. So I'm just going to put a little bit of grease right there, like that. Nice. That's perfect. That way the shackle is nice and tight. I'm going to go up to the front. Oh, I didn't fit the front. Man, that was a mistake. Actually, the front fits pretty nice. Pretty nice up in there. Whoa. My whole bougie setup is bougieing out of the way here. Let's do that. All right. Like that. Like that. Okay. Okay. Almost there. Okay. Woo! Man, that was a struggle. Dang it. All right, that's good for now. Well, that was fun. Look at that. Okay, let's move on to the front here. When you do one of these rough country kits with the front springs, it comes with bushings uninstalled. Here you see the open eyelets, but it comes with bushings. You get some urethane bushings in the kit, and I've also put new bushings in the frame. The frame bushings are also urethane, so this will stiffen the front end up quite a bit. And I'm just going to take, you see what I'm doing? Probably not. Just going to take my, heavy, my little mallet, just knock these in. I put a little bit of grease in the, oh, easy now. Put a little bit of grease in the spring, and everything weighs a ton and it's covered in grease. Let's try it again. I put a little bit of grease in the bushing. Boom. There we go. So this little thing will have urethane bushings all the way around, which would be nice. And I over-greased this to the maximum. Now the front of these springs bolts into the frame, and then the rear is a shackle. And if you saw the disassembly video, the shackles are currently stuck in the original front axle and probably ruined. Whoa! Because they're stuck in the bushings, the original metal bushings, so there's probably no way to get them out. Well, that's gone forever. Will this lean on here? Probably not. Nope. Man, leaf springs are super unwieldy. There we go. So the spring, see how this eyelet is rounded up? That's the front, and the rear here is wound down. That goes in the shackle, and I'll show you the shackle in a second. I'm reusing the original front bolts for this. They're in nice shape. They're fine thread. Just put a little grease on them too. So we need more grease. Grease everything up real nice. It's a problem of, bushings and stuff. They're metal on metal with the bolts in the sleeves, and they were put together dry originally, and they never get any lubrication, and then just rust right up solid. Then you can't get them apart. So that's why I'm greasing the crap out of everything. Now, Oh, nuts. What in the world? If I had a lathe, I could turn them down into lathe. I don't have a lathe, so I'm going to have to just take the grinder and face them down a little bit with a grinder. Aha! There we go. Just took a little bit of grinding. No problem. Just go ahead and knock these up into place. Maybe. I got this pin wrench here for putting like I-beam steel together, but it's got this taper little doohickey on the end of it that's meant for lining bolts up, and that just worked fantastic for that. Boom. Installed. So I'm painting the shackles. I'll show you those in a minute. I actually had a set of Ford like Mustang Pinto shackles from another project, brand new in the box, and they're the right width and bolt diameter to fit in this. And they're a little lighter duty than what was on the truck originally, but I think it's going to be okay. I'll keep an eye on them. You know, if I see any deflection in them at all, I'll do something else. But I think it's going to be okay for what I got going on here. All right, so a little bit later, the paint is dried-ish. I'm kind of rushing the process here, but it is what it is. So these shackles, like I said, these are Ford Mustang Pinto shackles. I had brand new left over from a project, and they just happen to be the right answer for what we're doing here. They're just a tiny bit less beefy than the stock Dodge front shackles, and I'll keep an eye on them if they you know, deform or bend or anything. I'll go ahead and I'll get the correct ones, but since I have them, I'm going to use them. So should be able to just come here, lift this right up into place like so, and do this and that. Oh yeah, oh yeah, yep. Hoop, it's going. Look at that, bam, perfect. And this truck's gonna be way up in the air. Holy moly. Then it's got a dog bone that goes on the back of it here. It's actually Christmas Eve, and I'm filming this. This is a couple weeks ago for you guys now. Actually watching It's a Wonderful Life tonight here on the, while I'm wrenching with you guys. You got George Bailey there, Jimmy Stewart. Well, you know me, Mary. I gave you money there, and Bill, your house, it's over there, and all this old savings and loan. You know, Jimmy Stewart. Well, Mary, just the old house, all these old busted windows, it's all drafty. That's my Jimmy Stewart impression. So anyways, look at this. Man, this thing is, when the axle's down here, when they say a 4-inch lift, they're just not talking a 4-inch lift. This truck was pretty squatted because the springs were wore out from the plow, and they were almost flat to concave, so you know, they were like way up into here, right almost hitting the snubbers. I put new rubber snubbers on here, but the leaf springs were like this, like it maybe like an inch away from the snubbers, so they're like way down. I mean, there's no weight on it, obviously, but this thing's gonna be a monster truck. I can't wait till we put it together and I can't get it out the garage door. That's gonna be awesome. It's literally, the door is literally 7'2". I've got a little panel I can take out if I have to. It's going to be real tight getting this thing out of here. All right, bam, it's the next day. Moved on to the rear end here. What was I doing? Oh, the springs are all on. I took the steering box. I painted the steering box with some rust encapsulator. That's over here chilling. on my like swing of action here. So when this dries, we'll bolt that up on. But right now, I want to start making some, what do you call them, spring perches for the rear end. These existing jobbers need to get moved over, and they're like thick. Yeah, they must be cast steel, I would guess. I got to cut them off, but instead of reusing those, I think I'm going to make some new ones. I cut out a template here, and this axle tube is 3.5 inches OD, so these are going to go inboard somewhere. The reason I want to make a longer axle pad like this is I went on Barnes 4x4 website, and they make a lot of adapter brackets and spring hangers and stuff like that. Barnes, I'll put it in the description or whatever, or right here on the video, Barnes 4x4. And they have these anti-axle wrap spring pads they make. They got a lot wider footprint, so they'll fit up on the spring and help with the axle wrap, or when you get on it, which is usually a problem if you have big lift blocks. Like say you got a leaf spring and you got a tall lift block, the axle wants to rotate around and cause axle wrap and vibration and brake stuff. So they got these axle pads they build, and I can buy them and get them shipped here for like $30. I think there's something like that on their website, but then I gotta wait, so I'm gonna make my own. So I got a piece of heavy wall, 2.5 inch square tube. It's the same width as the leaf springs. It's like 200 thousandths wall, and I'm gonna cut a pair of these out of here. And over here, the reason I'm gonna do this is I was worried about axle wrap here on this truck just because it's got a decent amount of horsepower and torque, and you could wrap the axle. But this being real wide, this rear helper spring is real flat. So when I put the axle under here, the thing's like almost 8 inches long, and it'll help seat the rear end really well. It's gonna take a lot of the force out of the U-bolts and kind of plant it right on the leaf spring, and it should help have less axle wrap. And because we can build it, we're gonna build them. So I'm just gonna lay this out on some tubing. I went to see if I could find a 3.5 inch hole saw. They don't have any, and somebody had bought the 3-inch one at like Tractor Supply or whatever, and that's the only store it's close by right now. So I've got a 2.5. I'm just gonna drill it close, and then I'm gonna have to cut the rest with the cutoff wheel, and then just use the grinder and grind around out. But it should work. And then we'll make new axle pads. This will be the side, obviously. I'll weld it onto the axle tube, and then on top I'll drill the axle. The spring pin hole will sit on there, and then when I cut the old ones off the old rear end and get that mounted up in, I'll have brand new axle pads that will be super heavy duty. And actually I'll get another like 1/2 inch of lift out of this. If I put it down here, I'll add like a 1/2 inch. It'll give me another 1/2 inch of lift in the back. So I'm going to set up the time lapse, and we'll take and drill and cut these out. I'll lay them all out, and we'll make some new axle pads and probably finish out the video with that. Bam, there we go, cut right out. Check out my neat looking piece of scrap left over there. That's pretty slick. But we got these pads. Boom. So these won't be this far inboard, and I got to take these U-bolts off, but that's what it's going to do. It's going to fit right nice onto the axle tube there, and I'll just square them up. I'm going to grind a bevel here so the weld goes in there, but we'll when I get this set up, I'll slide the rear end under the truck, get these locked in place, and tack them. And check it out. When I took the truck apart originally, the rear end, the pinion angle is set about 8 degrees. Like you see that these are sloped downhill. I set the pinion at level, and then I put my protractor on the axle pads on the original Dana 60, and it was 8 degrees. I think because this is a lifted truck and the differential is 4 inches lower, I might put like another 1 or 2 degrees of pinion angle in it to pick the rear end up just a little bit. I see the front axle with the lift kit comes with shims to roll the axle ahead a couple degrees, I think probably for front drive shaft clearance on the cross member. But the rear end, I think these set up different than a car, where usually you want your transmission output and your rear end angle parallel. So it doesn't matter where the rear end is. You want, like, say you got 3 degrees down on the transmission, you want 3 degrees up on the rear end, so they both be parallel. But since the rear end is so much lower, you got to put some angle into the rear end, or else the drive shaft U-joints won't be able to it'll be so far out of whack that the U-joints can't do it. So the rear end had 8 degrees with the stock height suspension. So I think I'm going to put like a couple 2 in there, make it like 10 degrees, and that'll help get some more pinion angle up to the transmission when I set that up. But I've still got to clean this whole rear end all the way up and get it all descaled and stuff. I got to cut these pads off, which I can cut the outside. There it goes. I still got to cut these pads off. There's a weld here. Hopefully I can use a cutoff wheel, cut like straight down, free it up, cut this one straight down, chisel this off, then grind that weld off. These will probably end up being about here or so when they're welded on the rear end. But they're going to be nice and beefy, good enough, and it'll get right under these leaf springs there. So got those made, ready to install. So I think that's going to be it. A little bit longer video today, I think. I lost track of time, but it seems like it's taking longer. So we got all 4 leaf springs installed on the frame. Got the rear end thought about. Got those rear axle mounts made, the spring purchase, and I'm going to install the steering box now. Just bolt it up on. And next time, I think we'll be rolling the rear end under there, getting that bolted in with the new U-bolts and stuff from the lift kit. And then this frame can roll in and out. And I've got to get the truck in here, disassemble the truck, get the front axle out, and I got to put the front axle under the new frame here. Then I'll have a rolling chassis, and once I get the brown truck disassembled, get the engine out, get the transmission transfer case off, I can slap the new motor in this chassis, the Magnum motor, put the transmission and transfer case on that in here, and then we'll have a full rolling chassis to start assembling on. So things are going to start coming together now with the Dodge. I can't wait to put it together and see how it looks. I think it's going to be way up in the air. Hopefully I can get it out of that door. That'll be a future surprise we'll all look forward to. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit the little thumbs up guy there. Bam, hit him. And we'll see you next time. Bam. Building Dodge stuff, I guess, here at the Quick Speed Shop. I'm a professional. Don't try this at home.